In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court made a decision that would shape American politics, healthcare, and individual rights for nearly 5 decades. That ruling sparked national debate and deeply personal conversations in homes throughout the country. The Brennan Center for Justice describes Roe v. Wade as being one of the most controversial and politically significant Supreme Court decisions in modern history, and for many Americans, this was never just a court case. It was something that affected their real lives. Roe v. Wade was a landmark Supreme Court decision that established a constitutional right to abortion in 1973. And in 2022, it was overturned in Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, which changed abortion laws nationwide. The Dobbs decision stated that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion, and the ruling returned the right to regulate abortion to individual states. Today, I will explain what Roe v. Wade was and provide background on the case. Then I will examine arguments from those who support Roe and those who oppose. Looking at both perspectives will help us understand why this issue continues to matter. To understand why Roe v. Wade had such a major impact, we need to go back to where it began. The original case raised important questions about privacy, personal choice, and government power. The answers the court gave in 1973 shaped national debate for nearly 50 years. Understanding that foundation will help us understand why the 2022 decision changed so much in the country. So, what is Roe v. Wade? Well, in 1970, a woman using the pseudonym Jane Roe challenged a Texas law that banned abortion except to save a woman's life. She argued that the law violated her constitutional right to privacy. In a 7-2 decision, the court ruled that the right to privacy is a broad enough reason to encompass a woman's decision of whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. This decision made abortion a constitutional right nationwide. Roe v. Wade mattered because it protected abortion access for nearly 50 years. The Center for Reproductive Rights explains that Roe recognized pregnancy decisions as a constitutional right to privacy. For many people, this meant that the government could not interfere in deeply personal medical decisions, and it became one of the most debated Supreme Court rulings in U.S. history. The Supreme Court reviewed a Mississippi law banning abortion after 15 weeks. In a 6-3 decision, the court overturned Roe. The major opinion stated that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. This returned abortion policy decisions back to the states. Because Roe was debated for nearly half a century, strong arguments developed on both sides. Many Americans believed it protected essential rights. Others believed it went too far. To fully understand the issue, it's important to first examine why supporters defended Roe. Supporters of Roe argued that abortion is healthcare, that the right to choose is fundamental, and that overturning Roe harms communities. So, why is it healthcare? The Planned Parenthood Action Fund describes abortion as a safe and legal medical procedure. Supporters argue that pregnancy decisions often involve complicated personal, financial, or medical circumstances. Some people may not feel ready to parent, may lack support, and may face serious health risks. For them, abortion is part of a broader reproductive health care. Supporters believe many personal medical decisions should remain private. They argue that bodily autonomy is tied to individual liberty. The Center for Reproductive Rights explains that Roe affirmed decisions about pregnancy fall within the constitutional right to privacy. For many, this was about protecting freedom from government interference. Some argue that restricting abortion access creates financial and logistical barriers, especially for low-income communities. Research suggests that overturning Roe has far-reaching implications across the health systems. People in states with bans may need to travel long distances for care, and supporters worry this increases inequality and stress for already vulnerable communities. While these concerns shaped the arguments of Roe supporters, many Americans strongly disagreed. Opponents believed that the decision was legally flawed and morally wrong. Opponents of Roe argue that the decision overstepped constitutional authority, limited states' rights, and failed to protect unborn life. Many critics believed that abortion laws should be decided by individual states. The Dobbs decision stated that the authority must be returned to the people and their elected representatives. Opponents argue that Roe prevented states from reflecting the values of their citizens. Overturning it restored state-level decision-making. Many opponents believe life begins at conception. and should be legally protected. Turning Point USA argued that Roe forced a nationwide abortion standard and did not recognize the value of human life. For them, the issue is centered on protecting unborn children. This belief forms the moral foundation of their arguments. Opponents also argue that abortion is not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution. The Dobbs majority concluded that the Constitution does not guarantee a right to abortion. Critics believe that Roe relied on a broad interpretation of privacy rights, which, overturning it, they argue, corrected a constitutional mistake. After examining both perspectives, it is clear that Roe v. Wade remains one of the most controversial Supreme Court decisions in U.S. history. The issue continues to shape political and personal conversations nationwide. Strong emotions and deeply held beliefs exist on both sides. That is why the debate continues today. Roe v. Wade established a constitutional right to abortion back in 1973. In 2022, it was overturned with the argument saying that the Constitution doesn't guarantee a right to abortion. Supporters argue that abortion is healthcare and tied to personal liberty. Opponents argue that Roe overstepped constitutional limits and failed to protect unborn life. Regardless of where someone stands, Roe v. Wade shows how one Supreme Court decision can shape a nation for generations. Today, abortion laws differ depending on where someone lives. That reality continues to impact families, communities, and political debates. This conversation is far from over.